Welcome to the United Unbiased show, and tonight we're going to be talking about schoolboy football.
My name is Mario Ferran, and I attend the Edwin High. Position I play centre back or defensive midfield, and I'm also the captain.
Okay. For a team like Edwin Allen, I mean, people have been talking about Edwin Allen, from last season to now, right? Unfortunately, you didn't leave the first round or advance to the second round last season. As a captain of the team, how do you see this team for the future?
Well, this team is very disciplined, so we have a great team as well. So I think we can do this other season to come.
Okay. And in regards of the team's strength, where do you find that in this team?
Well, all around, we all have great players.
Yeah.
Midfield, centre, all around.
Okay. That means you're looking to advance and go further than just the second round then.
Yes. Straight on.
Okay. That's good. That's good. Thank you. Good afternoon, Tajay.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, man. I'm sorry. Let me apologize to take you out of your training session, right? But we got this opportunity, and we just said that we'll just seize the moment, right? I realize you're a new letter to the puzzle at Edwin Allen,
Yes.
right? Which school you coming from?
Clarendon College.
Yeah. And how old are you?
17 years old.
Yeah. Which position you play?
Attacking midfield.
Okay. How do you feel about this team going into the 2021 season, though?
Well, there's a lot of potential I see so far. Great fans like.
Yeah. Okay. And you're understanding the system of play that they use
So far.
and the coach's philosophy.
So far.
How do you feel about the coach comparing to your last coach?
Well, different adventure. Adapt to new things.
Okay. And you're catching on.
So far.
Okay. And obviously they have welcomed you well.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
My name is Luke Charlton, and I'm 18 years of age. I attend Ewarton High School,
Okay. Luke.
and I play centre forward. Thank you very much.
Luke, good afternoon again. Tell me something. How do you feel knowing that the schoolboy football had cancelled for the 2020 season?
I feel very disappointed, like I have a breakdown, because we were so preparing for it and so on, and to know that it has been cancelled, you know that it's a big breakdown for the team and myself. Whole
Okay.
coaching staff.
All right, let me ask you something. Edwin Allen did not leave the first round last season. Based on what you saw with the team this season, for the 2020 season, you think the team would have done better?
Yes, exactly. The team would have done much better than last year, knowing we understand each other more and more over the years, and the way we train and so on, much harder, because we want to advance and make the school very proud of us.
All right, thank you.
My name is Sam Harris. I'm 18 years old. The school I attend is Edwin High School. I'm a centre attacking mid or a wide attacking.
What is your name?
James Harris.
James Harris. Okay. I know every footballer have an alias now. What's your alias?
My teammates like to call me Patty.
Okay. And tell me something. How do you feel knowing that schoolboy football had cancelled for the 2020?
For me and my teammates, it's a big setback, because we had a very strong team going into the season, and knowing that some of our players cannot play back for the next season.
All right, stop. All you have to do is just go to your boat. Just go to your boat, and tell him one.
and we could not find a better panel to have that discussion, right? Well-rounded, well-experienced set of gentlemen. First, we have Mr. Reynolds, multiple winner of the competition at schoolboy level in both Manning and the Costa Cup. Yes, very good coach. And we have Mr. Reynolds, yes, a premiership coach, right? Yes.
Yeah, man.
Coaching the great MoBay United, yes. We have the great Tafari Burton, the coach for the Edwin Costa Cup team. We have Mr. Kevin Whittick, formerly of the Ewarton High School, the Costa Cup team. Now is now a principal, is now an administrator. So now, gentlemen, we can talk to this administrator about how we go about and
Yes,
yes.
You get that, this is a wrong question. You get the
Yes,
the administrative view.
That,
The administrative view.
everything
Yeah.
No,
will
we have
come
an
free.
administrator here with us now.
I will be able to wear both caps.
I
Exactly.
can, but it depends. It depends on the direction to which you take in the discussion, sir. Vassell.
Okay, so yes, guys, so now for me personally, as a former player, I know that Mr. Whittick, Mr. Burton, I'm not certain about Mr. Reynolds being a former player, but I know that Mr. Reynolds a former player. I'm not sure.
Yes, man. Them two guys you mentioned a while ago, you know, they were not as good as my left foot.
I know you were a very good player. I know you were a very good player. I remember when I was watching you guys.
Yeah, man. I played at the Premier League level. I played at the Premier League level.
Yeah.
And I also played for Clarendon College in my days.
Okay, great. So we have players, we have coaches. Perfect. So now, as a former player, it has been said multiple times that we tend to compare eras, and it's not one of the best things to do. However, we still have that quote-unquote comparison going around. And one of my questions to you, I'm going to start with Mr. Reynolds. How would you compare coaching now in this era versus coaching back then, with a different set of players, different mentality? How would you compare coaching in such time?
I think I can answer that question easily. On both fronts, in terms of attitude and in terms of potential and the likes, much easier and higher standards back then, to me, in my opinion, and in terms of the easiness to which you need to motivate your players, as it relates to commitment, it's far more difficult now, and it's something I'm trying to understand, because now, in my mind, or clearly in everybody's mind, there are more opportunities for young players than back then. Even as it relates to the national program. I mean, back then you had to be a quote unquote superstar to be playing in the rural areas and to get invitation to the national program. Now it's a little bit more open. There are more opportunities, both in terms of scholarships, in terms of the national programs. So I find it a little bit difficult to understand why is it that back then you had more players with more commitment than now. So in comparing, it's a little bit more challenging now. I don't know if it's because of distractions or I don't know. The other thing that I find it a little bit difficult to understand why the football is in your living room now than back then. I mean, you can sit down, you can watch the football, There's more opportunity to watch more football and to get a better understanding of it. There's more, I would think, maybe more widespread high-level coaching, no, because of the exposure. So it's a little bit more challenging for me to coach the players now than say 10, 15 years ago.
All right, thank you, Mr. Reynolds. So let's go to Coach Burton. In a situation like that where your Mr. Reynolds mentioned that probably back then it was easier to coach and motivate players. Now, as a coach, Mr. Burton, how is it you go about to get these gentlemen, these young guys, motivated to play? Because right now, as Mr. Reynolds said, we have a lot more opportunities now to actually have a career in football. All right. So I would think that it would be easier. That is my opinion. I thought that it would have been easier to motivate these players. So, Mr. Burton, how do you go about getting these players motivated to play football and to be successful?
Well, I must say, first and foremost, I support what Mr. Reynolds is saying. I support it in a sense that I never used to coach but then when Mr. Reynolds is talking, at that time I was a player, right? But coaching now, I can remember how we were coached as players, and I think he's correct when he said back then was a bit more, easier. Now, I think kids are more centered around technology. I think kids are more centered around technology, and that makes it harder for coaches now. Why? The game itself is more practical. From then even to now, and you can tell even with the VAR that they brought in recently, right? And because kids are more centered around technology, you have things that distract them easily. Things like their gadgets. When I was a player, gadgets weren't so prevalent to students. You understand?
True.
You understand? So what coaches has to face now, they have to face how to you can't separate them from the gadgets because they have their own personal gadgets, right? But what you can do, it becomes easier, like if you have them together on a camp or on a dorm. You give them time when they use it, when not to. In regards of motivating them, for me, I always try to think like them or remember when I was at their age. I see how they do things now. I listen to them how they talk now, and I realize the things that they like. You understand? So in regards of motivating them, especially at the school where I am, Edwin Allen, there's this coach that I had a similar conversation with about a year and a half ago, right? How to motivate them, and his name is Vin Blaine, and great coach. And he said to me, "What do they like? Look at what is happening in the environment, and what is not happening for these athletes at Edwin Allen. For footballers, football is it's not traditional for footballers to get overseas scholarship. It's not traditional for footballers to have national scouts come in and look at them, right? So my whole thing is bring this to the table, and I brought it to the table last season, even to now, and I realized they have been more enthused about it. You understand? And I get them to train better. I get them to train smarter. I get them to think smarter. I get them to want to do this, have it as a priority, just like the gadget. So, those are things that I've been introducing to them and getting them more excited you know, to want to play the sport. I don't know, maybe at the school where, you know, Mr. Reynolds is, maybe he tries something different, you know.
Yeah, I
But you have
understand.
to you have to always look at what you're around, what the circle that you're in. And I look at my environment. You understand? Because not all schools are like Edwin Allen. Maybe you have another school that centered around overseas scholarship that is a traditional thing for footballers, but it hasn't been in Edwin Allen. So I use that to motivate them. That's one of the things I use. You know, you understand? And the other thing is, for me, I look at, suppose they don't get to play the game after high school. What do they do? So I try to create a core of teachers who can help me to motivate them in a disciplined manner where their academics are concerned.
Very good. Very good.
You understand? And you know, we, especially mathematics, we find a way how to teach them mathematics and make it seem as if they are playing football. Especially with anytime you're dealing with triangles. You understand? Because you know football is played in triangles sometimes. So, you know, get them to smile, get them to like it, get them to, you know, because they love football. So if you can interject football in their academics, you know, you'll get them to love it as well.
I like that because you raise a valid point. I was just about to ask Mr. Whittick, how is it? How would you go about now? Because I have, let's say, I don't want to say personal experience, but I've seen a number of quality footballers. After school, you go on the street, you find them there. You go on the street and you find them there. So I'm wondering how we do, we're talking about motivation. How do we motivate these players that we have at the schoolboy level to actually transition to something positive after school? All right, it is a motivation behind it because as a principal, I'm not, before I talk to you as a coach, sir, I'm going to look at you as a principal. We have students coming from multiple backgrounds, different socioeconomic situation, right? And all these players, they come together in one area with different experiences. How do you get these players to perform well, right, as the coach, and also motivated to be successful after playing at the schoolboy level?
Well, good evening again, everyone. Coach Vassell,
Even,
Coach Tafari. And thank you very much, Mr. Mark Whittick, for inviting me on your program. Well,
Welcome,
I
sir.
must say, motivating players, sometimes it can be easy. It also can be very difficult. One thing, you know, and I must retract as a player, I was motivated by practicing, playing games, and not just playing games right around me, but getting the exposure, moving from one place to the other. And so I still believe that we can debate all about 10, 15 years ago, or even 20 to now. But if we can get our kids to practice together more often than not, and being practice meaning playing more games, it might be difficult now based on the pandemic. But I am sure that these coaches that are with me now, Mr. Burton and Mr. Reynolds, I'm sure they are looking at some online training. And so if though we're not there physically, we can still have our practicing right where we are, from our living rooms and our carports and our front yards, backyards, wherever. And so getting these persons, whatever the circumstances are, to practice together will motivate them. Now, you're looking at it as an administrative point of view, and you make mention of my present role. But in everything, whether it was, whether it be football, cricket, academics. When you have players or students from different socio-economic backgrounds, you will have challenges. Now you have to be creative and innovative. And so when you get them into the space, whether in the classroom or on the football field, then that's where you have to place the emphasis of what you want them to do. Not just playing, and Coach Tafari mentioned about life after school. We all here can testify about life after school.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? And so you must let them understand. And every case is a teaching and learning situation. I don't believe in telling a player or a youngster, listen, if you don't make it in football, you must make it in academic. What you need to do is just to show them both sides.
I agree. Totally.
From early. And so the moment you start to put these information in, you know, you're showing them the different avenues where they can be in 20 years' time, they will make their decisions.
I really like that, Mr. Whittick, honestly. I really like that. Yes,
And, you know, I mentioned something about innovative. And later on, I'm sure, I am almost sure, because I believe in this man named Coach Vassell Reynolds so much, that later on he will touch some valid point as it relates to creativity and innovative. Because life doesn't stop here. COVID pandemic hit us to the ground. So is it a matter that we'll stay here? No, I strongly believe that we have to look towards the technology, just like what Coach Tafari mentioned. The technology is very good. And I'm saying, regardless of the little negatives surrounding technology that will take away our present student athletes' interest from the game, we need to use it to good effect.
I agree with you totally. I'm going to throw something out, guys. I'm going to throw something out. A friend of mine, actually a friend of mine, Mr. Whittick, you know him, Mr. Romy, Gunpoint.
Yes.
I don't remember exactly what you said just now that reminded me of that question. All right. You mentioned something about coming to, yeah, you mentioned about coming together.
Coming together.
Yes. And we're going to get back to where we're going. But the question he asked, and anyone feel free to answer it, anyone. He said, why can't we, as Jamaican, have a system like a Barcelona? So we have a system at Barcelona. Barcelona plays. And everyone that comes through the academy, right? Everyone that comes through the academy, at some point in time, experience playing that system. They are taught to play that system. So we teach them to play that system. Why? He was looking at the national team. So I was asking, why can't we have a system of play that we try to get the students through the under 12s, under 15s, you name it, coming up to play. So we have a national system that we try to fit the players in, instead of having multiple systems playing. Why can't we just have a national system and say, this is what we are playing, this is how we want to play our football, and we are striving towards this? What do you think, gentlemen? Anyone, feel free to answer that one.
All right. Let me take it on before the active coaches.
Okay,
you know,
go ahead.
Presently, I'm really a fan, if you want to put it that way. And it is difficult, you know, when you're in a third world country, a third world situation like what Jamaica is now, to develop a system from a club level and then to incorporate it to a national level, it will be almost impossible in my view. And even worldwide, when you have 12, let me put it this way, if I'm in Jamaica now, 12 clubs at the National Premier League levels, the only way we can get that system working unless all 12 clubs will play the same or similar system. Because I'm sure the players that will go to the national duties will come from different clubs. And so they will be coached in a different system, a different mindset. And so what I believe is that until we get our grassroots football to where it ought to be, that is how football. We can't depending on schoolboy football, we can't depending on the clubs, because the infrastructure that each of these clubs and schools have is really small. It's almost impossible. When you look at, I don't want to call schools name, but you know, Coach Vassell can tell you when you look at those high schools comparing to my farmer school. You know, when I was coaching, how do I get my student athletes to learn? I ensure that I have games and plan camp around all the schools where Mr. Vassell Reynolds used to be. Yeah. So what I try to do is to learn from them. And so it is not an easy thing to get each club to work for the national football.
Mr. Reynolds?
Your mic is muted, Mr. Reynolds.
I was saying that as I sit here and listening, you know, to both coaches, administrator slash. I have so much to say, but the issue is we need a national philosophy, right?
Yeah.
How it exists in Jamaica, there's not a national philosophy. We approach the football in a win at all cost scenario, and so you will not have. For example, I am of the view. Maybe I didn't have this view 15 years ago. I don't know, but I'm of the view now that from on the foot downwards to kiddies, the aim should not be to win. The aim is supposed to be development. Development, right? Yeah. In Jamaica, if you're coaching an under 10, the man must win the cup. Under 10, the aim is to win. The aim is to win. And so, because there is not a synergy that would stem from a national philosophy, there is no unison in terms of the platform, in terms of systems, right? And so you find that clubs, schools, national program, 6 different systems of play. And because of that, the national programs, especially the senior ones, suffers as a result of that. This also the issue about philosophy brings me back to the question you asked before about motivation. You see the thing about it, you know, my approach from back then and now is one of a holistic development for the youth. And so you have to take into consideration, like both gentlemen mentioned before, the environment, the socio-economic background where them come from. And so for me now, the thing that hit the nail for me now is the passion and the commitment for the sport. Now, if quote unquote your fridge is full, I know people don't understand what I mean like that. The youth is from a rich background and just see football as a pastime, it will be more difficult to motivate a youth like that. If the youth is from a poor or below average social economic background, where he feels that with a good balance and later on I focus on football to make it in life, then it will be easier to motivate a youth like that. And so there's not any one thing like the scholarship or whatever to motivate. Mr. Whittick mentioned practice, exposing the youngsters, them taking them places, playing against teams, developing socialization. So for me, my philosophy as it relates to that is always to ensure and to let the students know that, listen, my thing is a holistic development, not just the football, but I really am interested in your total development. You understand? So, but yes, we need a national philosophy in order to embed it, that sort of systems right throughout the club, the schools. I would say the clubs and the national program, because schools is not, you're not really supposed to be developing football at school. School is just a 12 weeks competition where you just go and try to go win a title. That's not a development stage for me. It's the grassroots, right? And it is the clubs. And there, it's for me in Jamaica, for example, it's just a win-win situation and not having a national philosophy. And that to me is the major obstacle we're having in terms of the football development.
Yeah, I do agree. Mr. Burton.
Before you go to Mr. Burton and Mr. Whittick, I hope you don't mind Coach Burton, but I just want to say something before I forget it, based on something I heard Mr. Reynolds mention. All right, Burton.
Hey, that's good with the man. The man is wearing an Arsenal shirt, you know. So
that's good with me, man. That's good with Mr. Administrator. That's okay.
I don't want to be talking about Arsenal, you know. I don't want to be talking about Arsenal. Arsenal kill Manchester United side, man, and bro.
Yes.
With all due respect, Mr. Mark Whittick, you're the host, but we don't ready to go to Premier League.
Yes.
I just want to mention this. As Coach Vassell mentioned about the philosophy. You know, I said this to Mr. Reynolds over and over, and I think this whole Jamaica, JFF, and the philosophy is really a nonsense. And let me tell you why I've said that. That's one point based on what I heard Mr. Reynolds mention. To develop a system, I have seen where you have the national coaches also coaching schoolboy football. And they are using a total different system, 2 different systems from the 2 different teams. So there's no way, no cohesiveness. Some of the same boys who we have been coaching before, he has brought them to the national program and then introducing them to a new thing. So this is where we are really way behind. We're wearing 2 hats, but we don't see a bigger picture. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So as it relates to what Coach Vassell and the administrator, Mr. Whittick said, you know, I support both of them again, you know, and it's clear about, you know, even what Vassell said about, you know, philosophy. But this is what I think, you know, because you're in the circle of something, you know, and you want to get yourself better and want it to get better. You tend to seek ways in which, you know, you can get yourself better. You tend to look at where you're coming from too. And for me, I'll use this word culture, right? And personally, I think, you know, looking at football from the past, worldwide, all of these top countries, they have a football culture, right? And that is what we have to develop. Jamaica needs a football culture, right? And having a football culture, it will lead to different things like youth academies that will teach the game theoretically and practically. Because personally, I don't think a footballer should wait until age 14 to know what a formation is, or to know what you mean by strategy in football. You understand? Right? So without a culture, we are unable to put a foot forward. You understand? And that's how I look at it. I look at where we're coming from. Like 1998, Jamaica went to the World Cup, right? Coach Rene Simoes was here, right? And based on how the players were playing and training, coming up to 1998, you could see that, you know, it's organized, it's structured, and they are training under a culture. For instance, look at Netherlands. There was a time in Netherlands where from the youth academy go right up, they had to learn the formation 4-3-3. For me to be consistent and have a good program at Edwin High School, I had to develop a culture for the football program at Edwin High School. As I was saying, you know, we have to have a culture that we are working from. You understand? And that is what would lead to everything. That is where we'll do our philosophy. You understand? That is where we'll get to edify the kids from that youth age. The country itself needs to develop youth academies where the players can be, these kids can be edified from theoretically and practically as well. As Coach Vassell said, that we are centered around the WIN. When we're at an early when we're at an early age, and that is why we fail to learn about and edify ourselves about the sport. You understand? Because this is the thing, we as coaches will say, why this kid is not following instructions. But this kid wasn't based around a culture at age 8, 7, you understand, where he has to learn to follow instructions. This kid came in the school learning football at age 12, 13. So he's just gonna do what he pleases sometimes and do what the coach asks sometimes. You understand? But if we were based around a culture and centered around a culture from an early age, from age 5 coming up, we would have better performance, not just in the youth stage, but in the national team as well, because they would base on that culture in youth at the youth stage coming up. So when they are recruited or scouted to the national program, it would be easier for the national coaches, as they were based on and centered around a specific culture. You know, I have kids now who are now able to, if the competition is going to play next season, they can play, right? But what I'm doing in this pandemic now, you know, and even before the pandemic, I've been trying to teach them and edify them about my philosophy and the culture that I want the school itself to have. And the whole under 14, under 16, and under 19 can be under the same culture. When an under 14 kid reaches under 19 stage, there are certain basic things I myself as a coach don't have to teach him, as he already know, and that makes my job as a coach
easier. Indeed. All right. I'm going to cut you a minute, Mr. Burton. I'm going to cut you a minute because I am guilty of something. Because at one point in time, I too was a young coach. Mr. Whittick was the one who actually introduced me to the coaching fraternity. And yes, as a young coach, one thing I had in mind, and I'm looking at it now from what you guys have been saying. One thing I had in mind back then was how much I can win. Not how to develop the players, how much I can win. What can I do with my players to beat the other team? And it was less about a system and more about doing what it takes to outplay another team. All right? We had some quality players, but because there was nothing there to say, guess what? This is a framework that I'm working with. All I did was to win some games. But that was it. Which it is still the same.
It is go ahead, if I may say, it is still the same view or aim of of young coaches now as we speak. And the reason for that, it is because of the winning environment mentality that we would have created nationally. Big man, if you know win, you're not good, or you know do not know whatever good. So because there's not this national consensus of development, then the coach in some ways cannot be blamed for want to win when they coach. You understand what I'm saying? Because I mean, because of the lack of developmental environment, the aim of most coaches right now is really to keep their job. And in order to keep their job, is to try to coach 10-year-old and 11-year-old if you go win.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Which is wrong. You know,
it is, because
what happens is that you're bypassing the fundamental developmental
that is true. And
yes, Mr. Burton.
If I may, Coach Vassell just said, because you know, I haven't said it, but I'll say it now that, you know, at my high school days, Coach Vassell was my first D'Costa Cup coach, you know, and I have high regards for him, you know. Big up yourself, Coach Vassell. And you know, part of my high school days.
Say it again.
That's true.
Yeah, man. Big up
He
yourself,
left
Coach
just
Vassell.
before I started. He left just before I started.
And and to add to that, I got a little of my D'Costa Cup coaching from another coach by the name of Coach Jackson. Good coach as well. You know, I learned a lot from him. But why I brought up these two coaches' names is because for some reason, Coach Vassell would have to tell me if I'm wrong, but for some reason, these two coaches had a culture that they wanted us to learn from that time. You understand? And you know, I did not realize until after high school, because where high school stage is concerned, sometimes you don't find out certain things until they reach adulthood, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
And you know, seeing myself as an active coach now, you know, only makes me respect Coach Vassell and Coach Jackson more. You understand? Because even doing webinars now, coaching webinars, I hear I hear even Coach Vin Blaine making mention of things that I've learned from Coach Vassell from 1992. And you know, football remains the same, and that is why I even chose to use the same culture with kids that I have. It is just right to use a little of it, you know, to tweak with what I'm teaching them, you know, because, and I realize I have some specific players who tend to even remind of 1992, 1993 of some of my teammates, you know, players like Omario Ferran, you know, Jaime Harris, Tajay Bailey, Alwyn Bryan, you know, Cian Morgan, you know, and these kids, they can play next year, and they but you know, they do things sometimes that remind me of that. And you know, my aim right now, you know, which coach doesn't like to win? Which coach would want to win the competition?
True.
But there are things that comes with that, just as we are talking about. You can't just center yourself around the WIN. You have to think about what comes before the win. What makes you a champion, you know? I've never won the schoolboy competition before, and that is why I'm happy that I'm even.
Sadly, man.
I'm happy that I'm on the program with a winner, you know, Coach Vassell. You know, but I'll say it again: the culture. We have
Coach
to
Vassell,
have a culture.
Here, Coach Vassell. Here, sir.
Yeah, man.
You're
you know,
here.
so I'll say again. We have to have a culture that will center our coaching around. You understand? Our football game around. We have to have a culture. Without that, we are in problem.